Okay, it's now time to edit your Little People project, and we're going to be using all the skills we've learned this year, and we're going to definitely be using some of the similar skills that we learned for our product photography editing, and also some of the skills we learned with our doodle portrait that we did in the past. So what we're going to do right now is go in and make sure that we move all our files over from the shared drive into our Google Drive. Okay, so once you've moved your files over, then you're going to open up the CR3 file. Okay, so you just go ahead and open that up, or the CR2. This is a CR2 file. And let's go into light, and let's up this exposure and make this a little brighter. Let's add a little bit of contrast. Let's make those shadows really stand out. Add a little bit of white, add a little bit of black, so we make those blacks really stand out in our shadows. That's why we're going to bring our shadows down. Highlights will go up. And do this according to your project. You may do less numbers or more numbers. It just depends on your project. And then we're going to come over here to color. Maybe you can adjust your temperature a little bit. Maybe I'm going to make this just slightly warmer. Add a little bit of vibrance and a little bit of saturation. And then I'm going to come down to my effects, and I'm going to add some texture, some clarity, dehaze. And then I'm going to go ahead and let me look at this exposure again. Maybe just up that exposure just a little bit more. And then I'm going to go ahead and open the image. Okay. When we're done, it'll look something like this, but we're going to walk you through the process of how to get here. Okay. So what you want to do first initially is crop your image. So let's go in and kind of go on the sides and crop our image a little bit. Just make sure your subject is in the center here. So if we have our little guiding lines here for our crop, so make sure that your subject is in the center, and then click on enter. All right. Once you've done that, you're going to duplicate your background layer, and you're going to call it clean. Okay, and we're going to clean up this image using, I recommend that you use a mix of both your spot healing brush tool, which is right here, as well as your cloning tool. Okay, you're going to find that both of those tools are very useful in editing your image. So go in and open up your navigator, make sure it's open, and then we're going to zoom in, and we're going to start at the kind of like the top right hand corner, and I can see like little black spots. These little black spots I want to get rid of. Just go through and get rid of them. Some of it might be in my dirty screen. If you notice little pieces of tree matter or just little lint on your background, you want to take that out. Okay, so you're just going to go through the whole project. You see how I keep navigating around here? And I got some just dirty candy spots on here. I've got a lot of stuff I'm going to have to clean up here in the middle. And I may want to get in with my cloning tool here in the middle a little bit. So I'm going to hold off on cleaning up that red. I've got all these little white spots here. Which happens to be small pieces of candy. I see something that's a little bit close to the edge of this candy here, so I'm going to wait on that one. I'm going to get rid of this highlight here, These little highlights on the candy, I'm going to get rid of them. Okay, I'm going to move this over. Move this over just so I can see my, let's move this up. Okay, so I'm going to look and see if there's anything I want to retouch on the actual candy. I'm going to use my cloning tool, okay? So I'm going to go in with a soft round brush with an opacity around 60%, between 50 and 60%, and I want to get rid of this putty. So I'm going to clone by clicking down on my Alt, and I'm going to left click, and I'm going to get rid of this putty by making it turn into the candy, okay? So it's going to look like it's our candy here. All right, there's a little tiny bit of putty right underneath this M&M. I'm going to kind of take off some of these little, okay, and then there's a bunch of like little white stuff here in the shadow, going in with a very tiny brush, and I'm just cloning some of the shadows around here and just getting rid of some of that white stuff in the shadows. And then I'm going to come over here and get rid of some of this red yucky stuff. I'm going to clone some of the brighter orange, yellowy color that I've got here. I'm going to bring it over. Whoops, that's bad. So let's go back on my history and undo that. Okay, make sure I'm just taking from the yellow over here, not the red. So only clone the clean stuff, okay? You can see I'm taking some, I'm cloning from here or from over here. Okay. Alrighty, I'm going to back up and just kind of see how this looks. Okay, so now I'm going to go in and I'm going to use my magic wand tool, and I'm going to make sure I've got my add to selection selected here, and I'm just going to start selecting my background. Now I don't want to select, I'm going to zoom in a little closer. Make sure I select in between the legs here, in between the body, and making sure I'm getting, now I'm noticing that there's the little specks that aren't being, I'm even going to not select this part of that shadow there. Okay, so I'm going to need to go in and fix some of this by going Q on my keyboard. Okay, what I want to do is go in with my brush tool, and I'm going to make sure this is set to 100%. And for this particular selection, I want to use a hard round brush and probably something slightly smaller. I'll use my bracket key, and I want to just draw around this. Okay. And I want to go back in and select that shadow that was deselected. Now I'm not going to select this shadow here. I'm just going to go with the really crisp shadow. Zoom in just a little bit closer to here. And I'm noticing these little red I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. And if you see little red specks, get rid of those, okay? That's stuff that probably should have been retouched that I didn't retouch. But that's okay because we're going to change our background color, okay? We're going to put in a new solid background color. Okay, so let's make sure that all our objects are selected and our shadows. Okay, going around this. Okay, looks good. So now what I'm going to do is back out and I'm going to go Q. Okay, I'm still seeing a few little specks that are, you see these little specks that are, so that means we need to get rid of them. So I got to get rid of that. Oops. Is there any more over here? There, and there. Okay, so Q. Oh, a couple more. Okay. All right, so I'm going to zoom out. And now what I'm going to do is add in my solid color. Now, I'm just going to kind of customize it how I want by just kind of I want this to be kind of a bright yellow, orangey color. And make sure it's the brightest color. I'm going to select all the way up to the top. And I'm going to make this kind of a nice kind of orangey yellow. And I'm going to say, okay. All right. And so that's pretty much the same color that we had before. It's just a little brighter. Okay. So if we look at that, if I turn that off, you can see there's the original. And there we go. And there's the shadows that we want. Perfect. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some burning and some dodging. Okay, so I'm going to add in my curves here, and this is going to be my dodge one. I'm going to call that dodge. And I'm going to do Control I and make my layer mask go dark, and I'm going to do another one. I'm going to add in my curves, and this one's going to be my burn one. And I'm going to call that burn. And again, Control I, make that go dark. Okay. So what I want to do on this is I want to dodge some of my candy and like give it some highlights. Okay. So I'm going to kind of zoom in here. Okay, and move this around. I want to make my candy look like it has some highlights. So I'm going to go in with a soft brush this time. And my opacity is going to be like 50%. And what I'm going to do is make this just a little bit lighter. We need to make sure we have the white over the black, it starts to show up on our layer mask. And I'm going to make this just a little bit lighter. Same thing on here. And same thing here. I'm just going to make this a little bit lighter where I want my highlights to be, because I'm thinking about, like, remember in this particular shot, the sun is pretty much directly above this, okay? So we want to go in and maybe the whites, we want to make them just a little bit wider. And I'm looking at my people, and my people look pretty good. You know, one thing I'm noticing is that I want to clean up this stick really quickly on the lollipop. So I'm going to go back to my clean layer, and I'm going to grab my cloning tool here, and I'm going to just clean up that red on the lollipop a little bit there. There we go. Okay. And I'm noticing there's a little bit of putty right under that foot there. So, and then also over here, there's a little bit of putty on the, not too much, but there was a little bit of putty there. But that's really the only place, the mostly that was underneath the candy here. Okay, let's go back now to our dodging tool. And back to our brush, nice soft brush tool. And I'm going to dodge a little bit of the highlights in the candy here, in this lollipop here. Just some of the lighter areas I'm going to make a little bit brighter. And my people look pretty good. Like, I don't think I need to dodge them anymore. Or I might, if I do anything, I might burn them a little bit. So go ahead and you can turn this on and off, and you can see the difference here. It's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to go on my burn layer, and I'm going to just kind of darken some of the areas that are already a shadow. So maybe a little bit down here, a little bit underneath. Kind of darken those shadows a little bit more. Make those shadows a little more intense. A little bit on the bottom. I'm going to make a really tiny brush, and I'm this people a little bit who are painting, a little bit on the right side. Just going to burn them just a little bit. And if we turn off the burn, we can see that looks pretty good. Okay, so one thing I want to do is, I don't really like the color of these candies, two candies here. So I'm going to go in and use my, I'm going to go in and I'm going to duplicate my clean layer. And I'm going to call it new candy color. And I'm going to say okay. And then I'm going to go in and use my little, now when I go to do this one, I'm probably going to have to go back in and use my Q to like, so go into Q. Yeah. And then I'm going to go in with my brush tool. I think I need to do white over black. I'm going to put my opacity at 100%, and I'm going to basically select my entire candy, and making sure I'm only selecting the candy, not the shadow, not anything else, just the candy. Make my brush just a little bigger so this goes a little faster. But be careful on those edges that you don't go beyond the candy edge. So I'll make my brush a little smaller as I go closer to the edges. See, I got a little bit off there, so I'm going to go back in and paint that back in again. Okay. And I got a little bit off here, so I'm going to paint that back in again. Okay. Go back to Q on my keyboard. And I'm noticing that maybe I need to do a little bit more here at the top on this particular candy. I can see, if I zoom in a little closer, you can see what I'm talking about. I have a little bit of, you see that little bit of red there? So let's go in and get closer to that. I'm gonna have to go back in and paint this edge here back to red. And then go back and fix this. I recommend going in with a crisp brush. It does help it a little, it makes it a little easier to get to that edge and not accidentally go beyond that edge if you go in with a little bit of a crisper brush. Okay. Okay, and then let's come over here and check this one out. Oh yeah, there's a couple spots here still that need it. Yep. Gotta fix that. Okay. Okay. So let's go back to Q and let's zoom out. Control minus or control plus. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to image adjustments, hue saturation, and I'm going to make this candy more of a green color. I'm also going to saturate that green, make it a little greener. There we go. And then I'm going to deselect, select, deselect. There we go. And if I back out, we can see that the candy is now green. And the final step is we want to do a sharpen layer. So duplicate that layer and call it sharpen. And then say OK. And then come over here to filter, sharpen, unsharp mask. And let's zoom in really close. First of all, let's find our subject, and then we'll zoom in on our subject. And this will help us to sharpen this and to see. So like start around 136, maybe a radius of like 30. Let's check the threshold. Nope, let's bring our threshold down. And then let's say OK. And then let's zoom in so we can really see how that makes it look different. So there is before, and now it's a little much more sharper. And then we can zoom out. Okay. Looks pretty good. And now you are ready to turn this in. But before you turn this in, everyone has a different image, right? So let's say you have an image more like this. And we're going to just take a look at this layer. I'm just going to turn off all these layers and just kind of walk you through what I did with this image, okay? So here's our original image, and basically a generative fill was used a lot, and so was the spot healing brush tool in generative fill. So generative fill was added. If you notice on the left over here, a little bit, what I did was I used generative fill to kind of fill in some of these blue sections of the paper to make it look like it was the water by just selecting those areas and using the generative fill. And there we go. Look at that. Do you see how that changed? All I did was select it and then just clicked on generative fill, and I let generative fill just automatically select from everything that was on the right and fill it in. Same thing at the top right hand corner. It filled in the cliffs. And then same thing here on the rock, on the what's supposed to be boulders, but it's wood and it looks like boulders. I filled in this area right here and got rid of that line. And then let's see. Okay. And then we had also over here on the left, we had this paper here, and I kind of filled that in with some more blue water, and then using generative fill. And then I kind of blurred these edges using our Gaussian blur. And then I added some more. I basically cloned in some of the waves up here and added that in here on the left. And then on the very bottom here, added in this red paint and used a brush to kind of make it look like it was a little bit rough on the edge. And then if we go back down here, this original background didn't have the sand expanding all the way down, so I used the cloning tool to kind of bring sand down all the way to the people. So this gives you an idea of what you can do over and above just some of the basic edits using generative fill to make your image look better.